Hi, welcome to Riders of a Certain Age presents Conversations Beyond the Barn. I'm your host, Fran Severn. Each Tuesday, I chat with people whose lives center around horses in unusual, unexpected ways. These are people who create the richness and variety of the equine world with their fascinating careers, hobbies, and livelihoods. Their stories show their passion for horses and the equine world, and it is a treat for me to share them with you. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's Conversations Beyond the Barn. Hi, welcome to Riders of a Certain Age presents Conversations Beyond the Barn. I'm your host, Fran Severn. If there is a better way to spend a weekend than celebrating all things horse with hundreds of fellow horse fanatics, I'm not sure what it is, except for maybe spending the weekend at the barn with your equine buddies. Throughout the year, there are many horse expos held throughout the country. One of the largest and most well-known is Horse World Expo in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. This year, it's the first weekend in March. My guest today is the president of Horse World Expo, Denise Parsons. Welcome.
Hi, Fran.
Hey. So, we have them on the East Coast, and I know there's a big one in Australia, but this listenership's worldwide. So, just what is a horse expo?
Well, I could tell you what Horse World Expo is.
Okay.
There you go. So we are basically a regional event. People come from all over the Mid-Atlantic and beyond to spend the entire weekend learning, having a great time, meeting up with friends. We have over 500 vendor booths. There are, I think I did the numbers the other day, it's around 240 clinic hours over the weekend. 5 different venues. So we have 3 arenas, 2 seminar halls, something going on in there constantly. And then we have entertainment events like our Trail Champions Challenge, and we have equitainment during the day. Then Theater Equus at night. It's actually a separate event at our show.
Okay. Now, in the real world, you are a full-time realtor. How did you get involved in this? Did you start this? Did you take it over? How did you get involved?
Actually, it goes the other way around. In the real world, I'm a show promoter. And when COVID hit, I had to substitute a new income stream because, of course, it shut every indoor show down. Thankfully, our event was 10 days before COVID shutdowns happened at the facility in 2020. So that is when I got my realtor's license. And yes, I'm now doing full-time realtor work in 3 different states in addition to running the Horse Expo. I founded the Horse Expo along with a business partner in 1996. Needless to say, that was not yesterday. And at the time, I was not a rider of a certain age.
Yeah, I remember going to a couple of them around 2000, 2003 up
Yep.
in
Yeah,
Harrisburg.
first event was actually in 1997 in Maryland. And we had about 100 vendor booths. And that was the extent of it. It was started on a shoestring. And I literally had to clean stalls after the weekend because the people that were supposed to do that, i.e. the horse owners, did not do that. And some of them had not cleaned their stalls for the entire weekend of the show.
Oh,
That
my.
never happened
Ooh.
again, needless to say.
They weren't invited back, I'm sure. So, but for a long time, there was the one in Timonium in Maryland, and then the Pennsylvania one. And I guess I'm just presuming it was just easier to combine them and just have one big one.
It eventually got to that point. So we started in Maryland. Maryland was our roots. And we started trying to get into the Harrisburg facility within the first, I don't know, 6 to 8 years of the Maryland show, because we knew if we didn't do it, somebody else would. The facility was just too nice. And if there's going to be competition against our show, we'd prefer to have been ourselves competing. So it took us several years. The facility eventually built an additional hall. And that's when we were able to get in. We were actually one of the first retail shows in the hall that we currently do Horse World Expo in.
Okay, so what is involved in planning and organizing? Just the numbers you gave me, because I've done event planning
Mhm.
in the past. They just overwhelm me. What is involved with the planning and organizing?
A lot of people will be surprised to hear this, but 90% of what gets done, I do myself.
Really?
And yeah, I have a couple of part-time helpers, and it's more of, what things can I delegate, which is not a lot. There are some things that are just basic key punch stuff and schedule employees and things like that. But I basically do everything myself at this point. So we're talking about wrangling about 350 vendors, another 350 to 400 horse owners, over 60 clinicians, putting the schedule together, getting all the vendor lists done, doing all of the website work, and everything else that goes with all of this.
Is some of that fill in the slots from last year? Because you kind of know some people will repeat.
So we have about a 85% return rate with our vendors. The database has, the basic information in there, but everything has to be entered new every year. Invoicing, contracting, making sure booth numbers either stay the same or get changed. Eh, yeah, there is some scale of repeat, but not much.
Really? How do you choose which clinicians are invited or are accepted if they request, and presenters as well? How do you make those decisions?
Yeah, so our local clinicians and some of our regional clinicians actually send in applications. So they send details of what they would like to do, what do they have to offer to the show. And it's really almost like a job interview when clinicians come in. And then the featured clinicians, those are the folks that I'm saying, okay, I want to make sure we have certain number of headliners, people that will draw folks to the show that may not have come otherwise. But because so and so is there, they're super excited, they want to come. The majority of people come, they enjoy the clinics. It's part of the program and part of the show. But most people would have come without a particular named person there. So it's more about trying to put together a balanced program with a balanced type of, the clinic titles. So I don't want to have 30 English people and one Western person. I don't want to have all natural horsemanship and nothing discipline specific. And in the horse world, we know we're very diverse. So I try to have a little something for everybody. It's pretty impossible that I can have something for everybody. And but there's a taste. And those folks, let's say, for example, and I'm just pulling one of my clinicians out of the top of my head this year, Dom Schramm. He's an eventer. So people come, they listen to him for an hour, and then they usually have an opportunity. They're going to see him outside the ring. If they really have specific questions and really want to get into more in depth conversations, they have that opportunity. But it kind of just gives everybody a little taste. I mean, face it, it's winter in Pennsylvania. What are we doing? On that weekend, we're either sitting at home, we're sitting on a frozen horse in a frozen ring, or we come to the expo, meet up with our friends, and have a good time for the weekend.
Yeah, well, you just released the schedule because I just got it because I'm going to be a presenter. Thank you
Actually, it's
very
not
much.
released. Yeah, it's not
Okay.
released yet, but it will be.
Well, by the time this airs, it will be.
By the time this
So,
airs, it'll definitely be there. It's
yeah.
going to be there in another week right now.
And what I find is really fun is that because it is so diverse, there are things that I would never have heard of. Some of the speakers are very interesting aspects because you've even got a lot of serious horse care and veterinary and that stuff. And then you've got what I would call like the lighter stuff. Like I'm doing a presentation on barn fires.
Mhm.
And that's very diverse. And my frustration is because I'm tied to my booth selling my book, I don't get a chance to run around and see all of these things.
Right.
But when I've been at shows when I haven't been tied to a booth, it is so much fun to see what else is out there. And if it's a horse, you're automatically interested. Come on. So
And
do you
there's so many things that are outside of our disciplines
yeah.
that we don't get exposed to. So that guy that's coming in and teaching positive reinforcement, okay, and let's say I'm a hunter jumper. Well, I may not have a lot of opportunity to use that, but what happens when I get on that one horse that just doesn't click with all the training methods that I've done in the past? It gives me another tool in my toolbox that
Mhm.
I may not need today, but someday it is likely that I will find a use for that tool.
Yeah. And the exposure, one of the things, because I've been all forces a little bit. I've had some knee replacements and other crud, and I'm finally getting back into riding. Good, I miss it.
Mm,
But to learn to see the examples of horse agility training,
yeah,
and that is so cool. And I've never really heard of it or seen it, and the liberty that is becoming a big deal now. And then you turn around and you can watch a clinician say, "Your horse doesn't want to load. Let me show you."
mm,
So it's, as you said, it's just constantly adding to the knowledge with a bunch of other crazy horse people.
right.
And then there's 500 places to go spend money in the vendor area.
All the things we didn't know we needed.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, I've seen, because I go to a lot of them, people come with a shopping list. And I think now a lot of people do get things online, but then they're coming and, to try out the saddles and to look at the boots. And it's just really, really fun. Now, do you try for we kind of touched on this earlier. Do you try for a mix of the big names and the local trainers and the local clinicians? And how do you find, because the big names you kind of know who's going to be a draw, I would think. But the local people, um, how do they apply? And do you ever go out and try to find some local people that you've heard from? Or is that just, too much work?
It's kind of not that it would be too much work, but it's kind of on them. Again, it's kind of like a job interview. So, is this somebody who is invested in their own business, their own training business? Is this someone who is a do no harm? I obviously don't want a clinician in there talking about things that they have no business talking about and could potentially get someone hurt. So I do try my best to watch for things like that. And again, we also go back to variety. So the vast majority of the people that come to the expo are not A riders. Because let's face it, just like every other segment of every other sport, there's the few elite and then there's the rest of us, right? Like, how many professional ball players do you know? And how many people do you know that play ball? So, Horse Expo, yeah, we definitely get some of those equestrian elite in, but the majority of people in the segment of the population are not those elite riders. So we need topics that are going to appeal to the majority of people. We want to inspire the amateur rider. We want to, give them something to go home and maybe work on. I remember years ago before Expo ever started, I watched a dressage demonstration. And keep in mind, I started this expo when I was 25, 30. I'm trying to do the math. It was a long time ago. Um, but I was so inspired by that rider at this random dressage demo that was at an event that it inspired me to want to learn dressage. So I think about times like that when I was younger and, going back to our older riders now, we have a large segment of people who have raised their kids and are now ready to give themselves some time. And again, I want to be able to give them an opportunity to be inspired by things that they can take home and do. Not everybody is gonna jump a 3'6" course, but they're gonna go home and maybe go on a trail ride, or maybe they just wanna learn how to be with their horse on the ground because that's what their skill level is and their desires are right now. So that's where things like that liberty comes in. It lets you be more interactive with your horse without even getting on their back. You know, there are horse lovers out there that can't ride anymore. And vice versa. I want to inspire the youth. I want those kids out there and keeping this industry and this sport alive. Because I've seen a lot of sports die because they don't have the youth involved in them.
It's interesting when I was researching writers of a certain age, because I was one, and as you said, had never had a chance to ride. And I discovered that the fastest growing segment of the recreational horse world is women over 50.
Mhm.
The largest group is 60 and above. I was at an expo down in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, a couple of years ago. Excuse me. And this lady came up to me. She was 82 years old and had just taken her first lesson. So I think that, knowing that, I guess that's probably part of when you're lining people up to keep that in mind. But at the same time, one of the things I see on a lot of chat rooms and stuff is we've got to get the kids re-involved because the days of the kids going to ride grandma's horse isn't there very much. And if the industry or the sport just keeps focusing on showing and that sort of thing, you're going to lose that next generation. So that's interesting that you're trying to figure out a way to entice everybody.
Mhm. We have kids that have literally grown up at this point. We're 30 years in here, think about it.
Yeah.
There is an entire segment of the riders in Maryland and Pennsylvania and the surrounding states that have grown up from small children to adult riders during the era of Expo. And I would love to think that their trips to the expo inspired them to keep going and put that phone down and go out and ride that horse. And, now I want to go to college and maybe take equestrian classes. And I'm out of college now and I'm going to start a business. I'm going to run a boarding barn. I'm going to run a training barn. These people are, our loyal supporters that that's what Expo has inspired a lot of youth riders to do, and I hope to continue doing that. Plus give that entire group of people who are just dipping their toes in inspiration to do it as well.
Dangerous place is to go to the adoption barn. That is a dangerous place, but it's there. If it's wonderful. So you mentioned the show that is at night, that is separate from the expo itself,
Mhm.
but it really is worth attending. Could tell me a little bit about that.
So that's actually probably the most fun of anything at the expo. It is just pure frivolity. That's its point, is to go out for the evening, have a good time, forget about everything else that's going on in the universe, and watch some really cool horse stuff. And, we that event, we those are all professional performers. They audition by video. There's only so many things you can do on a horse, but we certainly try to do those things as well as possible and in as much variety as possible.
What are some of the acts? What are some of the things that they do? I remember. I've got to remember. The first one I went to, Tommy Tuberville was there. Was working with the new horse, and the horse was absolutely uninterested. And it was so great because he tried several times, and it showed what a good horseman he is, because when it was clear the horse was not going to cooperate, he said, "Fine," and just did the things the horse wanted to do.
Yep.
And he said to the audience, "Yeah, I could force him, but what's the point?" And I think that was probably one of the biggest lessons that a lot of people learned. And
Mhm.
it was fun to watch him. Here he is on the spotlight, and people are expecting him to perform. And he says, "I worry about the horse." And I loved that. But what are some of the other great people that you've had? or that you will have this
I mean, we're
year?
still to this day, I mean, I chat with Tommy every couple of years. You know, he was pretty involved with The Walking Dead for quite a while. You know, but he's starting to make his way back out. We have not booked him for this year, but that doesn't mean he won't make a return at some point. Guy McLean is a personal favorite of mine. He's just very engaging with the audience. He is very genuine. You know, what you see on stage is who he is. Um, you know, and a professional. You know, he's gonna go in there, and if his horses make a mistake, he just keeps on going and does something different. Um, you know, we've had a lot of trick riders over the years. Right now, this coming year, we have a young lady that is still in her teens that does trick riding. Like, it's not hard enough to do when you're an adult with all of the adult function, you know?
Really? Yeah.
And this young lady is still a youth rider. Again, here's another inspiration, that we can look at. Pardon me, I have a large cat about to jump down on top of my laptop.
She can join.
This
She
is
can
my
join.
life. He's a Maine Coon, and he's monstrous, and he's
Oh,
10 months old, and he's into everything. Anyway,
absolutely.
you know, back to Theater Equus, you know, the people, and I could just go on and on. The acts that we've had over the years, every one of them have been awesome, and they're good people. The one I'm excited to watch this year are the archery folks. They do
Mounted
mounted
archery?
archery. Yes,
Oh,
ma'am. Mounted archery combined with trick riding. So they are like hanging backwards, shooting arrows at targets upside down on a horse that's galloping down the rail. And their costuming is awesome. And, you know, they're really cool. And again, I could just go on and on. Like, we've had some wonderful people that come in and do bridleless performances. And like, I mean, we've been in Harrisburg for 23 years. Yeah, it has been. It's
at
been
least,
23 years. It's
yeah.
our 23rd show, so technically 24 years because we didn't
Yeah.
have a show in 21. And I can't tell you the number of wonderful acts we've had come into the show over all these years.
Okay, I'm gonna have to get my tickets. So, wrapping up, time for the big plug. What are the dates? What information? When this airs, the URL and the
Yeah.
website will be there. So give us the big plug.
So we're horseworldexpo.com. I know you can see that on your screen, March 5th through the 8th at the Farm Show Complex in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. You can get tickets online or you can pick them up when you get there. If you're coming to Theater Equus, you want to try and get your seats early, if at all possible.
Okay. Thank you so much for doing this. With all of our technical problems, it took us 45 minutes to work out, and it all turned out that I had the wrong setting for the microphones. 4 years of college, and I still can't figure this thing out. Thank you so very, very much. And I will see you because I will be there. So
Yep.
thanks again.
See you in a few weeks.
Hope so. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Well, that's it for this week's episode of Riders of a Certain Age presents Conversations Beyond the Barn. If you enjoy it, subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Please leave a comment and suggestions for future shows, guests, topics, interesting equine activities. I'd love to hear about them, so would everybody else. And while you're at it, you can support the podcast by buymeacoffee.com/certainage. Support Conversations Beyond the Barn. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week.